The auctioneer's hammer slammed down, and a little boy screamed so hard the whole street went silent. Noah's cry cut through Willow Creek like a knife, sharp and helpless, the kind of sound that made even hard men shift their feet. Eliza Moore stood on the platform with her brother clinging to her skirt, his small hand shaking, his face pressed against her leg as if he could disappear into her shadow. Below them, men called out numbers like she was a horse. 20, 30, 45. Their voices rose and fell with excitement, like this was sport instead of a life being stolen. Eliza forced herself to stand straight. She would not give them the pleasure of watching her break, not while Noah could still see her face. 3 weeks ago, she had been a daughter in a small Montana town, helping her father with his freight business, carrying ledgers and sweeping the porch, dreaming of teaching school one day. 3 weeks ago, Noah had laughed easily and chased chickens in their yard. Then fever came like a thief. Her father went first, burning hot and shivering cold. And when he died, everything else died with him. The dead collectors arrived before the ground over his grave had fully settled. Men in clean coats and sharp eyes holding papers that felt heavier than iron. Eliza had watched strangers carry their chairs, their table, their bedding, their mother's lamp, and finally the family Bible out the front door. She had begged, and it did nothing. She had offered to work, and it did nothing. In Willow Creek, a young woman with no husband and no money did not get offers. She got looks. She got whispers. She got pushed toward the edge of town, where hungry men waited. So she did the only thing she could. She kept Noah close, and she lied to him. That morning, in the boarding house room they could no longer pay for, she woke him before dawn and split the last of their bread. She brushed his hair with her fingers because she had sold their mother's brush 2 days before. She kissed his forehead and forced the lie through her throat like broken glass. "It'll be all right," she whispered. "Someone kind will take us in." Noah looked up at her with eyes too old for 5 years, brown and serious like their father's had been. He did not argue. He had stopped arguing after the funeral. Now those words mocked her from every face in the crowd. The auctioneer was thin with a voice like a rusty saw. He paced the edge of the platform, one hand raised, the other gripping the hammer like it was his favorite weapon. "Healthy girl," he shouted. 20 years old, can cook, can clean, can mend. Brother included. Strong for his age, worth the extra mouth to feed. He gestured at them as if they were a wagon and a mule being sold as a set. Eliza's stomach turned, but she kept her gaze fixed. The hammer rose again. $50? The auctioneer shouted, eyes bright with hunger. "Do I hear 60? Eliza's throat tightened. $50 for her and Noah. $50 for every promise she had made to her brother. A drunk in the crowd wiped his mouth and lifted 2 fingers. 60, he slurred, and a few men laughed. Noah's face was wet now, tears mixing with dust. Eliza bent her head and whispered, "Look at me. Do not look at them. You stay with me." The auctioneer leaned forward. 60 going once. The hammer hovered. A calm voice cut through the noise. 100. It was not loud. It did not beg. It was steady, like a man speaking to a horse in bad weather. The crowd shifted. At the back edge of the street stood a lone cowboy, tall and lean, hat shadowing a weathered face. His clothes were worn but clean. He did not stare at Eliza the way the others did. His gray eyes met hers for one brief second, then turned to the auctioneer. 100, he repeated. Cash. The auctioneer's grin spread wide. Well, now that's a serious bid. $100. Do I hear 110? No one answered. Men muttered, angry and jealous. The drunk lowered his hand. 100 going once, the auctioneer said. Silence. Going twice. The hammer rose. Sold, the auctioneer shouted. And the hammer struck would like a gunshot. Sold to Mr. Caro Caleb Hartman for $100. The sound echoed off the buildings. Eliza felt the crowd breathe again. The sale was done. Her life and Noah's life belonged to a stranger. Caleb Hartman walked forward without swagger. Up close, Eliza saw lines around his eyes that looked like grief had carved them. The auctioneer shoved papers at him and laughed about good merchandise. Caleb signed without looking at the man. Then he turned to Eliza and Noah. "You two eat today?" Eliza blinked. Kind words did not belong in this place. "No," she said. "Come with me," Caleb said. Noah shrank closer. Eliza's hand tightened on his. "Where?" "To get you fed," Caleb replied. "Then we talk." They crossed the boardwalk, past the saloon. Eyes followed them. A woman turned away, like Eliza's poverty might stain her. A man grinned, like he had enjoyed the show. Caleb led them into Martha's kitchen. The smell of bacon hit Eliza, so hard her knees went weak. Noah stared at the tables, like they were a miracle. Caleb put coins on the table. 3 plates, eggs, bacon, biscuits, milk for the kid, coffee free. Martha's face stayed hard, but she took the money and went to the kitchen. Silence settled. Noah pressed against Eliza's side. Eliza watched Caleb's hands. They were rough and cracked, the hands of a man who worked for what he had. He drank coffee like it was medicine. "My name's Caleb Hartman," he said. "I run a cattle ranch north of here." Eliza lifted her chin. "Why did you buy us?" He did not flinch. "Because someone needed to." "That is not an answer." "It's the only one I've got," he said. "I saw what was coming. I had the money. I stepped in." Eliza swallowed. "What do you want from me?" "Work," Caleb said. "Cooking, cleaning, mending. A house that needs a steady hand." Eliza's voice dropped. "And my body." Noah went still. Caleb's eyes hardened. Not at her, but at the world. "No," he said. "Not that, not ever." The food arrived hot and heavy on the plates. Noah reached for a biscuit with shaking fingers. Eliza hesitated, pride battling hunger, then ate because she could not watch her brother starve for dignity. When Noah finally slowed, Caleb leaned forward. "Here's the deal. I need help at the ranch. I'm offering wages, room, and board. You and the boys stay together." Eliza's pulse jumped. "Wages?" "Yes. You would let us leave if we want to," Caleb said. "Give it a month. If you hate it, I bring you back to town and pay you for your time." Eliza searched his face for a trick. She found tired honesty and something else like anger held under control. Noah tugged her sleeve. "Eliza, please." Eliza's throat burned. "1 month," she said, "and Noah stays with me." Caleb nodded. Agreed. They left Willow Creek that afternoon. Caleb loaded supplies into a wagon. Eliza's whole life fit into one carpet bag. He lifted it into the wagon bed without comment and helped Noah climb up. When Eliza hesitated, Caleb offered his hand. His grip was firm and brief, like he feared a longer touch would feel like a claim. Dust swallowed the town behind them. Noah fell asleep with his head on the bag. Eliza sat stiff beside Caleb, eyes scanning the road and the hills. "Do people come after what they lose at auction?" she asked. Caleb glanced back once. "Some do." "Are they coming now?" "Not yet," he said, and the word yet sat in Eliza's stomach like a stone. The road climbed. Pines thickened. The air turned sharp. Caleb drove with quiet skill, speaking only when he had to. After a long silence, he said, "My wife and daughter died 3 years ago." Eliza's breath caught. Caleb took the rifle from its pegs and cracked the front door open. The yard was already dark. The horses in the corral shifted, nervous. Across the creek, something moved at the treeling, too steady to be an animal. Caleb stepped onto the porch, rifle held low. He did not call out at first. He listened, then said, quiet and sharp, "Show yourself." Nothing answered. The saddle creaked just once, and then the sound of hooves eased away into the trees. Caleb came back inside and slid the bolt home. His face was hard. "Go upstairs," he told Eliza, "and do not open that door for anyone tonight." Eliza's voice shook. "Who was it?" Caleb's reply was a grim whisper. Someone who followed us from town. Upstairs, Noah whispered. Are they coming for us? Eliza held him tight while below. Caleb sat by the fireplace with a rifle across his knees, waiting for footsteps. The trouble came sooner than any of them expected. For days after Brennan's visit, the morning sun had barely touched the tops of the pines when a hired wagon rattled into the ranch yard. Eliza was hanging laundry on the line, Noah chasing chickens nearby, when she spotted the stern-looking woman stepping down from the wagon with practiced dignity. Her dress was stiff, her hair pulled back so tight it seemed to pinch her whole face into a single expression of disapproval. Caleb stepped out of the barn the moment he heard the wagon wheels. His shoulders tensed the way they always did when something smelled of trouble. "Can I help you, ma'am?" he asked, wiping his hands on his trousers. "I am Mrs. Henrietta Walsh," the woman declared. "I represent the Territorial Ladies' Aid Society. We have received alarming reports concerning the welfare of a young woman and child allegedly residing here." Eliza's stomach dropped. This was Brennan's doing. She knew it before the woman even opened her notebook. Caleb kept his tone civil. "There is nothing alarming happening here." "That is what I intend to determine," Mrs. Walsh replied, turning her sharp eyes toward Eliza. "Miss Moore, I will speak with you privately now." Eliza breathed in slow, steadying her nerves. Running was pointless. Hiding would only make things worse. She brushed the dust off her apron and walked toward the porch. Inside the parlor, Mrs. Walsh sat straight back in Caleb's best chair, notebook open, pencil ready to record sins that had never happened. "Miss Moore," she began, "explain to me how you came to reside in this household." Eliza told her everything. Not dramatically, not fearfully, just plainly. The fever that took her father, the debts she never knew existed, the auction block, the men bidding. The moment Caleb stepped forward with his quiet voice and his $100, Mrs. Walsh's eyebrows rose higher with every detail. "You were bought," she repeated, scandal thick in her voice. "My debt was bought," Eliza corrected. "Not me, and Mr. Hartman offered employment, not ownership." Mrs. Walsh sniffed. "Employment? Yet you live under the same roof as him alone." "I have my own room. My brother sleeps beside me. And Mr. Hartman has never once treated me as anything other than a person worthy of respect." Mrs. Walsh scribbled something, her mouth tight. "Do you receive wages?" Eliza retrieved the wooden box from upstairs, opening it to show the neatly folded bills inside. "Real wages," she said. Mrs. Walsh's expression faltered, uncertainty slipping through her stern mask. "And your brother?" she asked. "He is safe," Eliza said. "Safer than he has been since our father died." When the woman spoke with Noah, he answered with a child's earnest honesty. "Mr. Hartman gave me my own bed," he said proudly. "And he teaches me about horses. He's real nice." Next, Mrs. Walsh inspected Eliza's room, the kitchen, the carefully kept records in Caleb's office. She questioned Henry and Tom. Both men spoke plainly, making it clear they respected Eliza and their employer. When she finished, she stood in the yard facing Caleb and Eliza with her hands clasped tightly. "I came here expecting impropriety," she admitted. "But what I found was something else entirely." Relief loosened Eliza's chest until the woman continued. "However," Mrs. Walsh said, "the appearance of impropriety remains. Society will always judge a young woman living alone with an unmarried man. If Miss Moore remains here, you will face continued interference from men like Mr. Brennan." Caleb's jaw tightened. "What would you have us do?" he asked flatly. Mrs. Walsh looked between them with surprising gentleness. "You should marry," she said simply. "It is the only way to protect Miss Moore and her brother fully." The words dropped like stones. The yard fell silent. Eliza felt heat rush to her cheeks. Marriage to Caleb. She dared not look at him. Mrs. Walsh climbed into her wagon. "Think on it," she said, "for the sake of propriety and safety." The wagon rolled away, leaving dust and shock behind it. Caleb turned slowly toward Eliza. She couldn't read his expression. "I should get dinner started," she blurted, fleeing toward the house. 10 minutes later, Caleb found her stirring stew with more force than needed. "Eliza," he said softly, "don't run from this." She kept it back to him. "We don't have to discuss it." "Yes," Caleb said. "We do." She finally faced him, her heart pounding. "You can't just marry someone because the world demands it," she said. "That isn't a real marriage. That's convenience." "Convenience," he echoed. "Is that what you think this is?" "I don't know what to think," she whispered. Caleb stepped closer, but not too close. Never too close without permission. "When this started," he said carefully, maybe it was about practicality, "but it isn't anymore, Eliza. Somewhere along the way," he exhaled, "I started caring for you in ways that have nothing to do with obligation." Her breath caught. "And if you say no," he continued, "you and Noah still stay here. Nothing changes about that." She saw the truth in his eyes. He meant every word. "Caleb," she said quietly, "what would you get out of a marriage to me?" He swallowed. "A partner, a family. A home that doesn't feel empty anymore." Her chest tightened. She had wanted someone to choose her, not out of need, but out of want. And now someone finally did. "I need time," she whispered. "Take all the time you want," he said. But the truth was already forming inside her, warm as a sunrise. By the next morning, she knew. She found him in the barn repairing tack. Light streamed in through the slats, catching dust in the air. He looked up as she approached. "I've been thinking," she said, his hand stilled. "And?" he asked quietly. "I need to know," she said. "If this is only practical for you, if that's all it is, I can't." Caleb shook his head. "No, stop being practical a long time ago." He stepped toward her cautiously. "When Brennan looked at you that way, I wanted to put him through a wall," he admitted. "When Mrs. Walsh implied you might leave, I felt panic I haven't felt since Sarah died. And when I think about my future, you're in it." Her heartbeat thundered. "Eliza," he murmured, "I love what we're building. I love the way the house feels alive again. I love watching you and Noah heal. And his voice cracked, I've fallen in love with you slow and steady every single day." Tears blurred her vision. "What about you?" he whispered. Eliza's voice trembled. "Yes, I've fallen too. And it scares me, but I want this. I want us." He took her hands, calloused and gentle. "Marry me," Caleb said. "Not because it solves problems, but because we choose each other." A tear slipped down her cheek. "Yes," she breathed. "I'll marry you." Caleb exhaled a shaky laugh and pulled her into his arms, holding her like he'd been waiting his whole life for this one moment. The wedding was small and simple, with wildflowers. Noah gathered, Henry and Tom standing proud as witnesses. Mrs. Walsh herself performed the ceremony with a surprisingly warm smile. Eliza wore her mother's dress. Caleb wore his best shirt. When they said their vows, both voices shook with truth. Caleb kissed her soft and sure. When he whispered Mrs. Hartman against her lips, she knew she had stepped into her future. And that night, with a quiet hum of the ranch outside their window, they built a beginning that felt nothing like the broken path that had brought them together. It felt like hope. Months passed. The ranch flourished. Noah grew confident under Caleb's gentle guidance. Eliza found herself smiling more often than not. And one winter evening, as snow dusted the windows, she took Caleb's hand and placed it over her stomach. His eyes widened. "Eliza," she nodded, tears shimmering. "We're having a baby." Caleb's breath hitched as joy overtook him. He wrapped her in his arms, laughing and crying at the same time. Their daughter, Grace, arrived in late summer, tiny, loud, perfect. Noah became the proudest big brother in Montana. Life was not without hardship, but the house was full of noise, of work, of love, of everything Eliza once thought she'd lost forever. Years later, with Grace toddling through the yard and Noah helping Caleb with the horses, Eliza stood on the porch watching her family. Caleb slipped an arm around her waist. "Do you ever think about the auction?" he asked quietly. "Sometimes," she said, "but not with fear anymore. That day didn't end my life." She leaned her head against his shoulder. "It led me home." Caleb kissed the top of her head. "Me too." They stood watching as the sun dipped behind the mountains, their children laughing in the golden light. A family built from loss, a home built from courage, a future built by choice. Their beginning had been born from the worst day of her life, but everything after had been theirs.